partner will be appearing in several sessions throughout the course of the event. Today's session, we will have an agenda. We'll first start off with some industry challenges and talk about integration at a high level and why it is so important in the cloud ecosystem and for CRM solutions today. We'll then hear more from Edwin and Louis around Neill Corporation's use of Salesforce and how they've been able to really empower a true social enterprise with integration and with cloud solutions. We'll then get a chance to see a live demonstration of Neill's unique environment, and you can see firsthand exactly how the org is set up and how they're getting just unparalleled results and insight from their cloud solution. And finally, we'll share some final key best practices and takeaways, and we'll then open it up for Q&A. So you have the opportunity to pose your questions to any of the presenters today. And if you do have a question that you want to forget, please feel free to use the chat feature in a floating window to the right of your screen, and we'll make sure that we address those questions in the order in which they are received. Without further ado, I would like to pass it over to Darren Cunningham, VP of Marketing for Informatica Cloud.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. We're really excited to be working with Configuro. We've been partnering now for a couple of years and really getting some good traction and joint customer success in the market. So as you heard, we're all very excited about Dreamforce. So we hope we'll be able to see you in person at the event. So I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes before we dive into a really great case study, talk about the benefits of cloud integration. And maybe, if you're on this WebEx, on this webinar, it's pre-acquire, you understand why integration is so important. Or maybe you're here just to understand and to get an overview. What we see at Informatica is the fundamental objective of customers and prospects, especially Salesforce.com customers, is to get that single view, to really ensure you're working with timely, relevant, and trustworthy data across systems. The use cases, we often see the need to connect your front office to your back office. So, bringing in orders, quote information, having that seamlessly flow between, systems like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft. It might be databases, flat files. It might even be, social media data. Really getting a handle on your data so you can really drive sales, marketing, and ultimately customer success. So if we go to in the next slide, I wanted just to give you a quick introduction to Informatica Cloud. Some of you know Informatica. Informatica's been in business for over 15 years, really a strong heritage and 100% focus on data integration. About 7 years ago now, we laid out an aggressive vision and strategy around all things cloud, and we partnered with Salesforce.com very early on. So our focus is really to try to barriers to integration, to make it more accessible to people who may not have a lot of technical background or even IT resources. So we really focused on simplicity, the need to rapidly deploy a cloud integration service, and then ultimately to unify with our core integration platform, especially if you're one of our larger customers who may already be using Informatica in different ways from a corporate IT perspective. We want to make sure you have self-service from a divisions and departments view. And we are proud that we have been recognized 4 years in a row as the top app exchange solution in this category. And more information at informaticacloud.com. So let's just talk about really quickly some of the use cases, and you're going to hear a bit about this today in today's overview. What I often find is you can break data integration down into 4 areas. The first is the need to migrate to a cloud application. So moving from a Siebel CRM system or some legacy app to Salesforce and Force.com platform. So the data migration, and we have very powerful data loading capabilities. We have a free data loader tool. The second is once you've got your data into an application, really where all the action is synchronizing your data between systems. Really ensure you have that single trusted record. You see in this example, you may maybe customer data, customer master. You have account and contacts in one system and accounts and contacts in other, and you need to make sure they're synchronized and you have that single trusted view. Master order history, very common use case for this opportunity to order. You're moving your sales process, you're moving your through stages. As you close a deal, you automatically kick off an order. Or as the order closes, you want to have that reflected back in Salesforce. So really that two-way communication in a seamless fashion between your applications. And I will quote from one of our customers. It was actually an App Exchange review. Having Salesforce with that integration is like having a house on a beautiful island with no way to get there. So we want to make sure Salesforce doesn't become a silo. We want to make sure you have high adoption and you're really getting the most value out of that investment. Just to wrap up on Informatica and our approach on the slide, just to share, you kind of set up some of the use cases around distribution, because you hear a lot about this in this case study, but it's a pretty common scenario where you have multiple ERP systems, often across different departments or regions. Got you're not a new company, right? A lot of if you were starting a company today, you would probably make it all cloud all the time. But the reality is, for most organizations, it's a hybrid world. You have to figure out what's moving to the cloud and when, and then to figure out how are you going to integrate with your existing infrastructure. So a lot of organizations, you buy companies, you end up with sort of a spaghetti infrastructure with a lot of hand coding between applications. What we're really excited about is a maturing in this category. We're seeing successful Salesforce implementations are the ones that think about integration early and often and build out an overall plan right into phase one of a deployment. For a few years there, we saw a lot of organizations and departments getting started because it was so easy to get up and running with Salesforce, but they really weren't thinking through some of the longer-term needs about integrating with the rest of the organization. So as I said earlier, really excited about integration as being sort of now recognized as the critical enabler of Salesforce success, and you're going to hear about that in the rest of today's presentation. So to highlight a few of the challenges we see, and we'll switch gears and talk about real-world scenario and how this approach really was key to the deployment.
Hey, that means I'm up. This is Edwin Neill. To give you a little background on our company, we're a third-generation family-based business. Family business. We're based in Louisiana. Right now, we're at about 150 employees, and our core business has always been distribution of hair care products. So over the years, we had been, we'd really worked hard on making sure we had up-to-date technology. We implemented an Oracle ERP system some years ago, and we've also continuously been developing software for salons and spas, and that's Salon Biz and Spa Biz that you'll see on your screen. Meanwhile, I think we kind of let our customer relationship management software language. We wheeled Salesforce between the two, in our distribution of about 50 people, and basically the way they were getting information was by having reports emailed to them. Back when I was calling on hair salons in the 80s, with note cards, and really we were still using note cards to keep track of customer interaction, and there wasn't really any visibility between the field sales force and the customer folks in the main office. The communications around customer needs and customer challenges were really more focused on done through the phone. AVEDA distribution is a major part of our company. We also offer salon and spa software. And something we do globally. The distribution is just in the south of the United States. We have our own salons and spas, 10 of them in Louisiana, and we also operate 17 institutes across the south. So we've got a pretty, the slide someone was showing earlier about talks about the different ERP systems. So that's the kind of we're definitely fragmented a bit. And one of the things we wanted to do in our software company was implement Salesforce. So that was kind of the impetus for us to get to more cloud-based. You want to next slide? So I talked a little bit about the disconnection, lack of productivity due to manual need to access information, and really just not lack of visibility about information. One of the things also, if you look at our software that it provides actual business data for the salons and spas, but to get that information, our Salesforce would have to go in and print out the information from the salon system. There was no way that we could fit that information into our own systems at Neill. I don't know, Lou, want to add something on this slide? Louis Lago's also with me, our VP of Business Development.
Yeah, just a little bit we'll just talk about the distribution at this point. The thing around distribution is we had all these different silos of information that were across all these different databases, and we had essentially our ERP system was housing all of our order management side of it, and annual reports throughout different departments done on Excel spreadsheets, etc. The outside sales team really going through and updating all these spreadsheets, then translating them to the internal team, and so all this cumbersome data that was all floating around, and really the accuracy of it we really had concerns around too. So all was, one of the big innovation or big needs around it for the distribution side of it was how do we streamline all that data? And then that's when really Informatica came in, in Figaro, when we sat down and reviewed what we were going to do for this project, is looking how we what partners are out there, and that's when we looked at Informatica, Salesforce, and then decided that was the best approach to really take all those silos of information and consolidate it, send it back into Salesforce, and Salesforce as our main delivery tool for reporting for all of our internal stuff and all of our outside sales reps to utilize Salesforce reporting, since it is so flexible on the types of reports and the dashboards that we were looking at. I guess we can go to the next slide. The big reason, in our company we have, Edwin just to kind of give you an overview of our companies. When we started with Salesforce was in our technology company, our software company. We really had a homegrown legacy system that was essentially our CRM, and we had an outside system, another system tied onto that was kind of our help desk side of it for when we had customers, during implementation, training questions, technical, all that stuff was housed in another system. So what we really had to do is looked at that. We knew that it was, something that we wanted to take on again. So we looked at other partners out there, other CRM companies. So we decided almost 3 years ago to go with another partner. We had another CRM software, and we had it in place for about 6 months and decided we made the wrong decision. And that's when we engaged with Configuro and Salesforce and went down a different path because the CRM that we had prior, the legacy system was one thing, but then the other CRM really didn't have the bells and whistles that we needed. And the big thing was that there was not a lot of integration partners with that company. With Salesforce and going forward with that for the innovation side of it, we were able to really, the technology company, we went and partnered with DocuSign, another company, QuickTools, and there's all these partners that were able to immediately integrate with our software for our lead management side. So all of our sales teams now uses it. We also use Salesforce for all of our help desk sales operations. So it's been a really big tool in that case, or that entity. Going on to the next slide. Two is like the different side of it. When we engaged with Configuro, we looked at several other partners out of Salesforce partners, and really we looked at who's going to be able to provide us solution answers to our needs within the organization. We looked at other partners, and they were said they had a lot of expertise and recommendations on stuff, but really what really hit home with me with Configuro, and I think Edwin can speak to this too, is that we really spent a lot of time initially on the front end. So we did what's called like a BPR, a business planning process with them. We spent several days on that and really mapped out really what the goal of the project was, what the phases of the projects were going to be, and really tried to make that happen. And then, as we go to the next slide, go to the next slide, please. Oops. Okay. You can just see how we did it, and we did this across all the 3 different entities. We would take project lead, that was myself or several other people. It was then combining that with the project lead from Configuro, defining those really requirements around the project for Salesforce. We like we said, we did our first one with the technology companies, and that was Neill Technologies. Our second one was AVEDA Distribution, and our third one, just was recently, was our AVEDA Institute. So from
I think it's, Louis, if I could jump in, I think what was really key was to have the people, you know, if you look at the AVEDA sales group, is really having the senior sales management involved from the beginning. And we actually had a change in one of those senior managers during the project, and we found out what happens when you don't have that initial buy-in and that initial, you know, get their thoughts initially, because the scope started to move a little bit. So I think having you know, a section of users and of management along with the technical folks was really key to the project's success.
Totally. But it was just leading that, you know, getting groups together and then getting everybody to agree upon what the scope of the project was going to be. And as you can see here, this slide just kind of covers our three different entities that are utilizing Salesforce. And what's unique about this slide in particular is that all of these Salesforce are separate Salesforce organizations, or separate Salesforce orgs, but our goal at the end of the day and during additional phases of this project is all of these Salesforce entities are going to talk to each other. All from when a student signs up at an institute, it follows all the way through for Salon Biz as a employee stylist, and then the productivity from Salon Biz, actual sell-through information, then goes on to the actual the sell-through information goes on to the distribution side of it. So right now we're just integrated on the distribution side for actual orders from our ERP system directly into Salesforce, and then we'll backfeed that distribution channel with Salon Biz data, from even student side of it to actual sell-through information. So really, when we looked at Salesforce, it gave us the platform to build a price solution that integrates everything seamlessly. I don't know if you want to add anything onto that.
I mean, I think the key though for us is going to be in the third phase of our integration between Salesforce and the distribution company is going to be getting the data back in from Salon into the system that the salespeople are able to see, you know, their iPads as they walk in the salon. So right now they you know, one thing that's really great is when they go into the salon, they know exactly where that salon is to goal. You know, is it has in whatever the new product promotions are. But when we've been able to see, okay, which stylists are actually having the indicators that we want from a retail perspective, which ones are recommending AVEDA products, which ones have a high product per ticket, and which ones have a lower product per ticket. We have that information at our fingertips, and we know whose salon to approach to impact them and really increase our sales to the salon by increasing the salon's retail sales.
Great. And this slide you kind of see here is just some of our order integration process. And so what we have here inside Salesforce is every single line item of detail from our ERP system is directly input into Salesforce. So we have, you know, thousands of SKUs, and every one of those SKUs obviously is attached to an order. So we have really visibility to look at, we call domains for our different categories. We have visibility to see into those domains and filter out that information by, you know, by territory, by sales rep, by territory, by each of the executive teams, and then separate groups upon that. It really gave us that ability to create all the reporting that we needed out of the ERP system and then back into Salesforce. And then some of the stuff that we've done too is just created different dashboards, and I think Ed will speak that in a little bit here, but it was just really that everything that we're doing now was real-time data. And it wasn't something that was from the prior day, you know. And a lot of the stuff we didn't really even touch on too, our case management side of it for distribution. If there was any product, item, etc., that's all then translated in Salesforce directly out to the field. So when they're in front of their salon owners, they can review that, go make sure everything was taken care of, etc.
And Lou, that's really important. We just did our quality survey where we survey our entire customer base, and we did very, very well. They did a Net Promoter Score, and we were like an 85, which is a great score. But one of the things we were criticized about was lack of follow-up on what we call customer challenges in the Salesforce parlance cases. So So this idea of being able to review the challenges directly with the owner, the person who's filling out the form, we feel like it's going to really increase that level of satisfaction that our customers will have with our service.
Great. All right, go ahead and go to the next slide here. Thing we did with our sales staff, there's about 60 sales reps that we have across the South, and we deployed iPads. So we've potentially iPads to all of the sales reps and Android phones, and they use those for the tethering for their hotspots, etc. They've done with the iPads is, Configuro helped us to optimize some of the screen stuff for that, was to essentially have what we call their doctor files. And originally that doctor file contained all their historical sales information, product sales, product launches, information about the salon, contacts, what their plans were with that salon, etc. If there was new promotional items that were coming out, kind of review that with them, and then they would be able to take notes on that. And that was a file that was probably about 60, 70 pages per salon or per location. What we've been able to do is to consolidate that all into Salesforce, have it all be viewable, when they're in the salon and visiting their accounts.
Gets rid of the paper shuffle and also make sure that they have the tools they need. Also in those doctor files are the different visuals. So say for example that a field sales rep goes in and they see that the salon needs staff. There's certain written tools that they would then use with the owner to figure out, what's the plan to get more people in. So that they have it in their fingertips. The second thing I love about doing this is that is about the iPad is that it's very easy to maintain. So we've gotten rid of the laptops that were really IS department a big headache. And then one thing the previous slide said, it talked about making the month. So instead of having the salespeople call and keep asking where am I on my month, have I reached my goal yet, that information's right there live in real time for them, and that's one of the things that they've been very excited about since we began implementation in July. They've just the access to the information. Next slide. Top-down visibility, we've pretty much really addressed this already. It's real-time information available right there on the iPad, and easy for them to get to, and very highly visual and graphic. Louis, anything on that? And obviously, any of us who've used Chatter know how much more it is than the plethora of email, and our field sales force loves to keep in touch with each other, and they adopted to Chatter like ducks to water. So it's really nice to see them communicating, and there now there's an ability to share directly communications that are happening with the customer, either internally with our internal service team or with the external field sales force. Slide.
And thanks, Edwin and Louis. Hi, everyone. This is Joe Hamler with Configuro. I'm going to take it from here and show you folks a demo of how the Neill and TSP Corporation set up Salesforce using Force.com, but also getting to an Informatica demo as well. So one of the main key things that was implemented using the Force.com platform was the game plans and the functionality required to support the folks that were out in the field and what they needed to accomplish to making the month. I think that was very important and key in a lot of the reports and dashboards that we talked about. As well, I'm going to show you an Informatica Cloud demo which talks to innovation on the back-end level with their ERP and order management. So we were able to bring the information from their back-office system in Salesforce, which will provide those folks out in the field the ready details they need to discuss with those salons. So I'm going to log into So I'm logged in now as an SP, a Salon development partner, and the first screen I get to is actually my home page where I have a list of tasks, also a calendar that actually manages my game plan, and this information is actually synchronizable with Outlook as well. I also have the ability to chat and also collaborate with folks right within my home page. These are all of those activities, those accounts, files, information that is to me. I also have a bar that really talks to and speaks to some of the things that I need immediately. So you have the ability to quickly jump to a game plan, email your game plan, and communicate with your management. And then as I scroll up, off the top, I'm going to a little bit about the information that is in Salesforce and some of the functionality. So you're going to see the Salon data. You're also going to see order packs. So again, in a distribution model, you typically have products, but you have product packages. You're also going to see the end of day, end of month, also the ability to do forecasting and dashboards. The other key feature that we implemented was, again, consolidating files in one place, and you'll see that here. But what I want to do now is quickly jump into the area, and game plan is actually created. A list of all of my accounts or funds in Salesforce, and I'm going to go to and create an actual game plan from this screen. And if you look at the bottom half, you'll see kind of everything that's on my calendar, what site visits I need to make, what staff meetings I have, etc. But I have an easy tool here to quickly use and drop meetings, allow you to quickly create an argument. I'm just going to quickly create a view. And so I'm going to actually me and build out what you see on my home page, which is my calendar. And so I'll have tasks and I'll also have calendar events, but I want to drill into an actual contact that may be at the salon will show up and allow us to take a quick peek at information that's associated with that particular person at the salon. I also have the ability to go to the salon from here and show you some of the information that's on the salon. As I'm going from screen to screen, the chatter window is following me, and anything associated specifically with a given salon, I have the ability to collaborate with it on the folks that are following the salon and willing to communicate and have conversations on. Look at a salon. Here's some of the information, and what you'll see here is a Force.com display of a visual component that was added to really show how this salon is performing over time, which is viewed directly from the application for these field sales people. Also have the ability to look at any open activities I have, so what am I working on, what's currently coming up, but also, what about a little bit, is the information that we're integrating from the back office, which is the orders and details. Okay. What that we've done with the Force.com platform is actually embedded one of the key metrics that Neill uses to manage their accounts. So this actually is generating a report that they used to have and do manually on Excel. We actually added all of that data into Salesforce, and with the order integration, we're able to do aggregate reports per salon now. Jump back over to the salon, and at the top, you'll quickly see there's a number of different areas I could quickly jump into very easily. This is a seamless and easy user interface. I'm also going to jump into the orders, just quickly talk about that before I jump into the Informatica demo. Click on an order. I may go into an order and actually see the order details. Information wasn't readily available to the folks out in the field. In order to get this information, they typically had to wait 1 or 2 days, but also they were calling into the, the customer support folks, getting this additional information. So when they would go into a salon, they wouldn't have real-time information, and this is actually allowing them to get that information in real time. I also can see and have the ability to look at the order details as well as any back orders that I may have in this particular salon. Okay, and now jump over quickly into the Informatica. And it again is a cloud solution as well. So what you'll see, I'm going into Informatica right here from the web. And the things that I'm going to do is how to build an integration task, a very simple one. If we take a look at Neill's setup and the way the Neill Corporation is set up here, you'll see that we set up several tasks to actually support in order how their integration was set up, but it's very simple to set up an integration. So back over to the home, and we'll take just a quick example of how to set that up. One of the other things that Informatica is really good about providing is detail around how to set things up in a practice fashion, but a real simple screenshot and of how to do that. Actually go into and build out integration tab. So the first thing I'm requested to do is download an agent. So I download an agent, and then this can be downloaded. Typically these are downloaded on your internal servers, but I'm just going to let that download so I can go next. And my next option here is to actually build out an integration. So what we're going to do is we're going to build out a product upsert. And what that means is that I want to either update or insert some information from another data source into Salesforce. Next, and at this point, we're going to select connection. I want to select, we'll select now we're going to select the object. So which object in that database do we want to select? And we're going to go down to SF and actually interface the item. So we're going to do that, and it gives me a quick preview of what is in that object or table, so I got the right one. I also have the ability to click on the preview to see more information. Now go next. Now actually connect to my target, and my target is going to be our instance. And once it's the target object, it shows me all of the objects in Salesforce that I have the ability to push information to or pull information from. In this case, we're going to go with we're going to go with product object in Salesforce, and we'll select that. a preview of that object just to make sure this is the correct object. We preview this, some more columns here, but in this case, we're just going to go ahead and go next. At this point, I have the ability to put in some data filters. So if I didn't want all of the information that was in that particular table, I could actually create a filter here and, any kind of criterion there to limit the amount of data that I pull over or integrate with. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and I'm just going to pull over all the roles, and then I'm going to go next. Here, a simple interface to map and set up transformations for fields that you're integrating with. So if you look here in my source file, I have my SF item, and this is coming from my back office database. I'm going to actually push this information over into Salesforce in their product to object. And Informatica actually automatically maps some fields for me. They also have the ability to transform the information as we need. So I could actually go in here and I could set up an expression. They give us the ability to quickly identify some functions that they have out of the box. So over here on the left of this window, I have the ability to convert data right within these mapping settings. So I go in here and I can easily turn one of these fields into different data type. I can do that in here. Just for time's sake, I'll go ahead and cancel that out. There are a number of different other features in here around, after you map fields, there's a validation that I run, and then we'll also do related objects. Let's also go next, as I'm in this demo. The last thing that I want to do is actually schedule the task. I could actually have this set up so that it can run on demand as I please, or I could go in and actually set it up based on a schedule. I have the ability to set custom schedules. Well, you'll see this Neill hourly schedule here, but also I can just set up a daily run or create a new schedule right from this page. Set up that schedule. I also have the ability to set up multiple integration tasks. So this would be one task that we would have set up. So I'm not going to actually set that one up. I could have hit save. Just to show you what that looks like, here's several integration tasks that we have set up for Neill, and here's the ability to run these, the ability to quickly create a copy of an existing task and make modifications so you can have two tasks pretty quickly. And also you had the ability to edit those within here. And I just built a task integration. So task integration, pretty straightforward. And then I have the ability to come in the configuration and actually set up and control the scheduling of that particular task or task that I want to establish the integration with. So at high level and basic view, you have how we've actually just set up an integration task. So I'm going to turn it back over to our presentation here real quick. Okay, and turn it back over to Edwin to just talk a little bit about the real business impact that we had, implementing Salesforce and what that means to Neill. Let me just turn that back over to Edwin really quickly. And also, Edwin, talk a little bit about kind of the roadmap and things you see on the roadmap for Neill Corporation with Salesforce and Informatica.
Well, thanks, Jody. As you can see, Jody communicate very well on a technical level, and one thing that I think made this so successful is that he really dug in and understood, gained an understanding of our business and what our needs were and how the day-to-day life of the salespeople who were really trying to impact how their day-to-day life worked. And one we talked about was just this real-time access to data, and that if you look at that piece alone, it's a dramatic improvement in sales productivity. We estimate it's probably an hour a day of less paperwork and less time on the phone, less running reports, printing out reports, et cetera, just because of this implementation. So that one piece alone totally makes it worthwhile to us. Another piece is with the being successful with a field sales force, so much depends upon making sure activities out in the field are focused towards really driving results. Because it's very easy for the salesperson to get into a habit of dropping in, saying hello to the salon owner, shooting the breeze for a few minutes, and really not getting to the intended outcome of that meeting and not doing the appropriate plan up front. So that the piece of having the game plan where we know exactly what the intended outcomes are for that visit, it helps the individual themselves, and it really helps the management be able, when they have their coaching calls, to follow up, to ask about how that interaction went, and to really look and see what the results were. So as far as next steps, automation, definitely a big one. Integrating with Salon, as I mentioned that earlier, where we'll be able to actually populate the key indicators for the individual salon into Salesforce, and then when the salesperson walks in, they know exactly what the key areas they need to focus on are. One of the things we always look at, I mentioned retail particular, but another is the number of transactions the salon is doing. If that's dropping, we need to know right at the beginning of that conversation, because if the salon's not seeing the customers they need to see, then they're not going to be successful and not going to be buying from them. So that, having that trigger to let us go in and start coaching on that makes a big difference. We've implementing CVent, so we used to spend a lot of time internally and externally getting salons and our stylists booked to education events. So that's all now become automated and connected through into Salesforce. And then the last thing is our Force.com student community site. You want to address that one, Louis?
What we're doing with Config, working with partnering with them on a development for our student side, more of its site, so we can build within the student management software within Salesforce. We're going to build a reporting tool for their hours, their credited hours, their brain dead here. Their hours that they've been for their accreditations. They have to have so many hours, financial aid portions of it. Except we're currently using other software that's out there, but it's not integrated into Salesforce. So we've decided to actually take that model and recreate that software in Force.com.
Awesome. And then, we just want to lastly cover the best practices that we want to recommend any folks looking to implement, integration, but also a Salesforce.com project that's going to be value. A couple things. So from a process adoption perspective, you want to make sure that you have ownership across the business. Edwin talked about this earlier, where having that executive team was very important, and having a top-down communication plan as we went throughout the project was also key and very important. The other thing I think that was also important from an adoption perspective was making sure that the business actually owns the data quality, not IT or the technical folks, because the business are actually those folks who will be controlling what input goes into the system, and they actually will be getting the most value out of that. Typically, there's a collaboration with IT to make that possible and make that successful, but the owner of that should be the business. And then the next area of best practice we think is really key is, look at and choose the best-in-class technology and also the services and the companies that you work with that are out there. So engage with, those expert partners earlier. As we mentioned earlier today, we actually are a, expert in Force.com, and then we also have implemented Informatica for the past several years with other clients, and get some of those benchmarking metrics and best practices from some of those expert partners. Leverage Force.com. So as you've seen with the salons, we actually had a component in there that actually generated and showed you some metrics right on the account page. That's not just Salesforce out of the box. That's leveraging your Force.com platform. Again, it was easy to use and actually very easy for the folks that are using iPad to see and interface with that. And then take advantage of an easy-to-deploy cloud integration solution, right? So Informatica, very key in making this project successful was the ease of configuring the integration task and also the easy way to deploy that. So I want to thank everyone for joining and also participating in this. I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
Yep, before we open it up for Q&A, we did want to let everyone on the line know we're extending a special offer to the attendees of today's webinar and anyone who registered for the event. If you do contact us before the 25th or over the next 2 weeks, you will get a free 2-hour integration assessment for your Salesforce organization from Configuro. And we'll provide you with some contact information following this so that you understand how you can reach out and get set up for that. And now what I'll do is pass it over to Alana. If you will, please, if you haven't already, please start to submit any questions that you have through the chat feature or the chat window, and we'll begin to pose those to each of the presenters as appropriate. And obviously, if we don't get to your question this afternoon, I know we have several that have rolled in throughout the course of the session today, we will make absolutely sure to be taking those questions via email after today's session is over.
Alana Ballin, I'm the Alliances Manager at Informatica Cloud, and really wanted to send a big thank you to both the Configure team and, of course, the Neill team for joining us and putting together this content. It's exciting to hear stories like these, and they join many stories that we have at informaticacloud.com. I wanted to just open it up now for Q&A, and I'll kick us off. Everyone is muted, so please submit your questions through the chat window, and I'll pose them to the attendees. I just got off asking everybody about how the implementation matched their expectations, like what they thought. Obviously, you had some trepidation before the project started, but how that compares to how the implementation process was.
I mean, it was very, very smooth. If you look at our first implementation in the technology company, that was very easy because we had super users sort of built in who instant learned Salesforce and jumped into it. If you look at, when we looked at the AVEDA implementation, we didn't have as highly technical people, and Jody had warned us to have great super users there, and instead we had some people who weren't really ready to jump in and learn the technology. So that was one lesson learned that slowed us down a bit. A second thing I think that we could have done better was he mentioned the data integrity. We didn't do a good enough job making sure that reports were matching, old reports were matching what new information was in they were getting through Informatica and through Salesforce, and we got out some data that didn't match. We learned was to have found out where what was not, was reading differently, and to have reconciled those two before you let anyone look at it, because I think it created a little bit of initial question. Louis, you have anything to add on that?
I think that's those were the key things. I think it's just also, I think we would probably broke out a little bit some of the phases broke them out a little bit more phased approach. But we one pretty big phase, and now we're kind of going into some of the other smaller phases. I think a great job on bringing up with so what we did is how we deployed it was through a super user team. The team had it, and then a smaller team on the sales side, on the reps. We went to them for about 45 days, and then we launched it to the whole entire organization.
Excellent.
Hey guys, hey Lana, this is Darren. I have a question for the Neill team. Just wondering, you guys had a bad experience with another CRM provider, and then you went to Salesforce. Has that driven overall cloud strategy at your company? Are you, truly called cloud
absolutely. First? I think one thing it's made us do is we've now got Salon Biz and Spa Biz fully cloud-based, where they were before we were using 6 sessions into central servers in data centers. So now it's running on an Amazon cloud, and it definitely did. When we just looking at trying to maintain it, to keep it running, the CRM system was kind of a nightmare, and I'm very upset with Louis for implementing it in the first place. Right, Louis?
it's one of those things. We went and looked at it, and we thought saving money by implementing another solution, ended up, something that we didn't end up. We just aborted and went with the solution almost immediately.
Yeah. So, plan now to move more and more apps there, or is it all for new apps? Those will all have to be cloud-based. I mean, how is that sort of changing your overall approach in your portfolio?
Everything that we're doing is cloud-based or with partners. And then those partners, when we're selecting them, are essentially cloud-based partners. Obviously, some of our other stuff, our ERP systems, that will probably remain the same in-house. A lot of the other, almost every outside application other than the P system would be preferably cloud-based. Just because offices all over the country and all over the place, and it just makes delivery a lot easier, and just the support side and infrastructure side is something that we don't have to worry about.
Excellent, thank you. One of the things, just going back a bit to your implementation, Darren Underwood asks if that scope creep that you mentioned due to kind of some lack of buy-in, curious what you did to get back on track in the implementation when that scope started to creep up.
That's definitely one for you.
We kind of made sure everybody was on board. I mean, everybody is responsible for each individual department. So if we had education departments, sales managers, et cetera, we brought those back in. We brought everybody back in. We brought in actually end users, and we made sure that we were all on the same page. And then we did a lot of sessions with people, or the sales team especially, because they had the most to gain, but they had also the most to change. So when we were fighting with them back, because they were, we had people with the company for 20 years that have been doing a process the same way. So we had to really re-educate them and get them on board from the beginning, make sure that they're on board. And I think we've succeeded in that, but it was something that we had to go through the process of making sure that they were buying in on it.
Great. Excellent. One other question that's come to us is about what next. It looks like you guys are doing some of the latest to make your sales team the most productive. They have iPads. They're got real-time data in their fingertips when they go into the salons. What do you see as being the next big thing to move at Neill?
Well, the few initiatives we have in place, obviously we talked about a little bit about the student management side for the institutes, build that application. From there, we're also looking at pushing Salon Biz data into Salesforce for our Salon Biz software. Two big key initiatives going on right now.
And one thing, Louis, as we were talking about this the other day, is we really need to, for reporting purposes for the school, we need to track their placement in salons. It's something that the Department of Education requires. So we're going to, expanding to really keeping in touch with them beyond, from the moment they go to our website and say we're interested in going to an AVEDA institute, to the whole time through their school experience, and then after graduation to employment. So that's something that's a big, we need to get done too.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank everyone for their time. We hope to see many of you at Dreamforce, and this on all our respective websites, config.com, informaticacloud.com. We run webinars almost every day. We've got one tomorrow on master data management, and new announcements we're coming out with for people like Neill Corporation who have a lot of data coming in and need to make sure it's clean and up to date. Check out informaticacloud.com for all those updates. And I'll hand it back to Kimia to wrap us up.
Great. Thanks so much, Alana. And want to just thank everyone again on the line, obviously all of our presenters, our sponsors for today, and also to the audience and the attendees who took time out of their schedules to join us. As we mentioned earlier, we will be distributing the link to the recording so that you all can check out this event again in the near future. And we will also distribute the slides so that you can have these presentation materials on for future reference. If you have any questions, as Alana mentioned, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and hope to have some deeper conversations with you all next week in San Francisco, if not, hopefully near future over phone or online. Thanks so much again, and everyone have a wonderful day and rest of your week.
Thank you.